In a small, fog-draped town in Oregon called Pine Creek, nestled between dense forests and lingering mist, there's a house that locals warn you about. It sits on the very edge of the woods, a silent, weathered structure that they say watches you back. It's been empty for years now. And after what happened to the Miller family back in 2015, no one will ever live there again. It all began when John and Rebecca Miller, with their infant son, moved into the old farmhouse. The price was a dream, so low it felt like a mistake. The owner, eager to sign the papers, mentioned it had been vacant for years after the last family left. In a hurry, he conveniently forgot to explain why. The first few nights were just as they'd hoped, peaceful, filled with the quiet hum of the countryside. But on the fourth night, something shifted. Rebecca woke abruptly, her heart pounding. She could have sworn she heard faint whispering coming from the baby monitor. But when she checked, their son was fast asleep right beside her. John, ever the rational one, dismissed it. Just interference, honey, he'd said, static from the old wiring. But the next night, the whispers returned, clearer this time. They weren't just static anymore. They were words, faint and raspy, as if someone was murmuring just on the other side of the walls. They tried their best to ignore it, to rationalize it away. That became much harder when, one morning, John found something chilling on the inside of their bedroom window. Small, dusty handprints, perfectly formed, like a child had pressed their hands against the glass. But their baby couldn't even stand yet. A few days later, a cold, prickling sensation began to follow Rebecca. She'd be standing in the hallway, and in the corner of her eye, she'd see the shadows shift and move before she did. A profound, unnerving feeling of being watched settled over the house like a shroud. One evening, a slow, deliberate knocking echoed from the attic above. Knock, knock, knock. John, trying to stay brave for his family, went up to investigate. The attic was empty, silent, thick with dust. But when he came back down, his face was ghost white. He stammered that he'd seen an old rocking chair in the corner, gently swaying back and forth on its own, as if someone had just stood up from it moments before he entered. Their unease grew until a visit from their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Porter, turned it into outright terror. She took one step inside the house, her friendly demeanor vanishing as she looked around. "You bought this place," she whispered, her voice trembling. This was the Wilkins house. They found the mother in the attic. She'd locked herself in. And drawn eyes on every single wall. Rebecca refused to believe it. It was just a morbid local legend, but doubt not at her. That night, after John was asleep, she crept up to the attic herself, flashlight in hand. The old woman's story was true. The walls were covered in faint, almost erased markings, hundreds and hundreds of eyes. Some were crudely drawn in chalk, others painstakingly carved into the wooden beams. As her light swept across the disturbing gallery, she froze. One of the eyes, drawn near the floor, looked fresh, as if it had been added just that day. From that moment on, the house itself seemed to turn against them. The laws of reality began to fray at the edges. Mirrors would reflect rooms that didn't exist in their home. Lights would flicker and die even when the power grid was fine. Then came the night Rebecca heard soft crying from the baby's room. She bolted from bed and rushed in, only to find the crib completely empty. She screamed for John. A frantic, heart-stopping search began. They tore the house apart, their panic escalating with every empty room. Finally, they found him. Their baby was sitting silently in the middle of the dusty attic floor, surrounded by cobwebs and forgotten junk, perfectly safe. There was no earthly way he could have gotten there on his own. That was the final straw. They had to leave. As John was packing boxes in the dim, musty basement, he noticed something odd behind a set of rickety shelves, a small metal vent he hadn't seen before. Prying it open, he discovered a narrow, claustrophobic tunnel leading into the darkness under the house. His flashlight beam revealed a collection of old, curled photographs scattered on the dirt floor. They were photos of different families standing in front of the house, spanning decades. As he looked closer, a cold dread washed over him. In every single photo, through different eras, one face appeared again and again, a woman with dark, hollow eyes standing silently in the upstairs window. That very night, a violent storm crashed over Pine Creek, plunging the entire town into darkness. The power went out and an unnatural silence fell. Rebecca was jolted awake by the crackle of the baby monitor. The whispering was back, but this time it was loud, clear, and terrifyingly close. A chilling voice spoke her name, Rebecca. She flew to the nursery. In the flashes of lightning from outside, she saw it. The crib was shaking violently, back and forth, as if an invisible force was trying to tear it apart. And then, just as suddenly, it stopped. The room went dead silent. John burst in with a flashlight, and its beam cut through the darkness, landing on the wall above the crib. There, drawn in fresh black soot, was a new symbol, a single, wide-open eye. They didn't wait for the storm to pass. They ran from that house with nothing but the clothes on their backs and their child in their arms, leaving everything else behind. When the police investigated the abandoned home, they found no signs of forced entry, no footprints, nothing to explain the family's sudden departure. But the official report noted a few bizarre details. Every single photo frame in the house had been turned to face the wall. Every mirror was cracked down the middle. And scrawled on the attic wall in fresh chalk was a single, chilling sentence. "Now I'm watching you." The house in Pine Creek still stands today, empty and decaying. Locals who drive past it at night swear that sometimes, if you look up at the dark windows, you can see a solitary figure standing there, staring back into the darkness. This was the story of the house that watches you. It serves as a grim reminder that some homes don't just hold memories, they hold eyes that never, ever close. If you enjoyed this dive into true horror and want more stories that will keep you up at night, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching. Sleep well.